So overall, a z-score measures how far a certain data value falls below or above the mean. And more specifically, a z-score shows the number of standard deviations that a certain data value falls below or above the mean. In a certain group of people, a person who is right at the mean of the group will have a z-score of 0. For example, if a certain class takes an exam and the mean exam score of the class is 75, then a student in the class who has an exam score of 75 will have a z-score of 0. That student would have a z-score of 0 because that student's exam score was right at the mean of 75. A person who's one standard deviation above the mean has a z-score of +1. So a student in the class who has an exam score that's one standard deviation above the mean would have a z-score of +1. A person who falls one standard deviation below the mean has a z-score of -1. A person who falls two standard deviations above the mean has a z-score of +2. A person who falls two standard deviations below the mean has a z-score of -2. And you could probably guess that a person who falls three standard deviations above the mean has a z-score of +3, and a person who falls three standard deviations below the mean has a z-score of -3. So overall, a person who's right at the mean has a z-score of 0. A person who's above the mean has a positive z-score, and a person who's below the mean has a negative z-score. Also, the further a person falls above the mean, the further above 0 that person's z-score will be, and the further a person falls below the mean, the further below 0 that person's z-score will be. For example, a person with a z-score of +2 is further above the mean than a person with a z-score of +1, and a person with a z-score of -2 is further below the mean than a person with a z-score of -1. Here we can see that a person who falls right at the mean has a z-score of 0. A person who's one standard deviation above the mean has a z-score of +1. A person who's one standard deviation below the mean has a z-score of -1. A person who's two standard deviations above the mean has a z-score of +2. And a person out here who's two standard deviations below the mean has a z-score of -2.